From the Ministry of the Presidency in Georgetown, this is This Week with the President.
Welcome to another edition of This Week with the President, a weekly news magazine which provides you with an in-depth look at the policies, programs, and work of the President of Guyana in his quest to realize the good life for all Guyanese. I am your host, Gomati Gangadin. In the highlights this week, government pledges no political interference in state media. Durban Park Development Project works moving apace. Government signs onto United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Paris Agreement. 120 servicemen awarded for outstanding service, good conduct, and border defense. Do stay with us. The government of Guyana has pledged its commitment to promote a high degree of professionalism and integrity in the media and made it clear that it will not, under any circumstance, subject state media workers to political directives that could compromise the tenets of professional journalism. In recent weeks, there has been much debate in the public domain on the role of the state media in Guyana. President Granger has made it clear that his earlier position that media outfits run by the state must report on the executive, the legislative, and the judicial alike remains unchanged. At the opening of an anti-suicide workshop for media operatives held on Friday, April 29 at the Regency Suites, the President emphasized that the state media are not intended to compete for or to dominate the information space.
My government accepts that the state media have a duty to ensure that the opinions of those persons on the margins of society are heard, and that the media should serve the interests of all of the people of Guyana and not just of the government. The state is committed to protect citizens' constitutional right to communicate ideas and to receive information. State media will continue to provide this service in a dispassionate and a professional manner. State media have a duty to report on national development. And since such information is often not sensational enough to be given attention by the private media, that responsibility will continue.
The state's involvement in the media environment is necessary, since most privately run media houses are primarily located on the coast and do not cater for hinterland and rural communities. The President noted too that government information is not always deemed sensational enough for the private media, and as such, state media is the only medium through which such information is transmitted.
State media have an obligation to inform the people about community development projects. The people are entitled to know the details of these projects. State media can also play an important role in disseminating economic, environmental, public health and climate advisories and providing information about public services. And as I said, there are so many areas of this country which the private media cannot penetrate, and the state media have an obligation to provide these services.
The administration, as a matter of policy, is working to develop 10 strong regions administered by 10 capital towns, and in due course, it is hoped that these regions will close the existing communication gap by establishing their own local radio, television, newspaper, and electronic media outlets. President Granger gave assurances that his administration will not undermine the professionalism of state media workers.
The administration is committed also to non-interference in the independent media. Independent media act as watchdogs of the government. They promote transparency by ensuring that information is provided to the public on the work of the government. There is no good reason for the state to interfere in the work of the private media. The relationship between the state and the private media must be seen as a partnership in providing a public good. That is public information for the citizens of this country. Independence of thought must be preserved. Professionalism must be promoted. And the Constitution of Guyana must be upheld.
On January 3rd, President Granger met with media operatives at State House, where he pledged monetary support for the Ghana Press Association to aid training programs and workshops in order to build capacity in the press corps. Envisioned by President Granger as a safe and accessible space for recreation and national activities, work on the Durban Park Development Project is moving steadily apace. The President said that he has high expectations of the finished work. In early January, President Granger and Minister of State Mr. Joseph Harmon visited the park, which is being developed mainly for the benefit of South Georgetown residents, but is expected to have the capacity to host major national events. It has already hosted the Republic Day flag-raising ceremony, which was witnessed by thousands of persons who turned up at the park for the observances, as well as the Ghana Police Force and Ghana Defence Forces Medals Presentation Parade held on Thursday, April 28. Durban Park will be equipped with an all-weather surface in some areas and floodlights, as it will be a major public venue. While construction started in mid-2015 and was advanced through a public-private partnership, President Granger recently mandated the Ministry of Public Infrastructure to take full responsibility for the project, since it has the capacity, expertise, and resources to ensure that it is ready for the hosting of Ghana's Golden Jubilee Independence Anniversary celebrations. President Granger had noted that the park started under a public-private partnership because there was a lack of provision for the park in the 2015 national budget, coupled with the delay in the passing of the 2016 budget.
Initially, the budget for 2015 had not catered for the works there. And we had to wait until the budget for 2016 was passed. So in the meantime, we got some assistance from civil society and the corporate community to initiate works. The works have come to the stage in which we feel that the government of Guyana needs to inject public funds and not rely on the support of the corporate community, which was given voluntarily.
The venue, which will have a capacity of 30,000 persons, both seated and standing, will be able to accommodate literary events, concerts, sporting activities, and major public events. The President believes that the facility can become one of the best in the Caribbean. In keeping with this, the President has kept a keen eye on the progress of the park. Mere days after transferring responsibility for the project to the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, he visited the site. On Wednesday morning, the head of state, accompanied by a minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Ms. Annette Ferguson, went to get a first-hand look at the works which are currently ongoing to get the facility up and ready for the May 25th and 26th celebrations. During the tour, the President said that he was satisfied with the work done to date, while he outlined his expectations for the facility as the celebrations approach.
Well, the purpose of my visit was to find out exactly how far the work has been, how much work has been achieved and how far it has gone so far. I'm very satisfied. This is going to be the main area in the city of Georgetown for public events. And as you know, we had made a lot of headway during 2015. Some improvement work has to be done. The Ministry of Public Infrastructure is now continuing that work. We're looking at capacity to ensure that the maximum number of citizens, particularly from Central Georgetown, could have access to this facility. We're looking at safety, and we're also looking at the ability of the whatever events we hope to bring about here could be viewed, and there will be facilities for transmitting the information around the country.
The assurance was given that the facility will be brought up to international standards and will become one of which all Guyanese can be proud.
We're looking for a facility which is safe, so there won't be any danger to life or limb. We're looking for one which which has the capacity to hold a maximum number of citizens. We look for one which is accessible. We don't want to go up by the seawall. I think that is one of the drawbacks with the so-called national park. People from South Georgetown find it difficult to get there. So this is perhaps an ideal location for satisfying safety, capacity, and of course visibility. People all around the park here will be able to see, the floats or the parades or whatever is taking place here. So I would like to give the general public the assurance that this will be a project of international standards and something of which they can be proud.
Mr. Jeffrey Vaughan, Chief Works Officer of the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, said that he was pleased that the ministry has been able to stick to the work plan despite inclement weather.
President, as you realize, the remedial works that the Ministry of Public Infrastructure has taken on has commenced. As you realize, standing on the ground now, the crusher run works are progressing as is. As we said, we had 21 days to complete. We have started the reinforcement of the stands. As you know, we had concerns in terms of the safety and the strength of the stands. We have started working on those. The VIPs moving ahead, and we're still hoping to wrap up everything within the 21 days as was stated. We have most of the contractors on board right now, and there's even more than we wanted, and everybody's on board and working, and we're hoping that by the 15th of May we should be able to bring in the project.
The ministry will begin its double shift system this week, which will see works being done around the clock in order to meet the May 12th deadline. A grant is actively being pursued to fund the project. In the meantime, however, funding to the tune of $150 million has been approved by Cabinet under Infrastructural Development line item for the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. It is expected that at the end of the 21 days, the roofing and remedial works for the spectator bleachers, completion of the superstructure, walls and roof for the VIP stand, electrical wiring, lighting and power supply, completion of access driveways and bridges, sanitary facilities and drainage works will all be achieved. The completion of the bleachers would include the replacement of damaged members, that is, beams, columns, decking, the installation of additional structural members, and the installation of roof and guttering. There are 27 stands, and it is expected that 4 contractors will be asked to work on these and to pull double shifts so that the deadline can be met. Climate change for quite some time now has been a major concern for almost every country across the globe. For smaller states like those in the Caribbean and Guyana, the effects are already being felt with the frequency of hurricanes, tropical storms, high tides and flooding. Though small, Guyana has vast amounts of untouched, pristine rainforest, which it intends to use to combat the effects of the dreaded climate change phenomenon. In December, Guyana participated in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change through Minister of Natural Resources, Mr. Raphael Trotman. According to the Center for Climate Change and Energy Solutions, an agreement was reached by all of the participating countries, which saw the drafting of a common framework that commits all countries to put forward their best efforts and to strengthen them in the years ahead. In keeping with the commitment to a green Guyana and the fight to lessen the adverse effects of this phenomenon, President David Granger last Friday signed onto the Paris Agreement at the United Nations headquarters, New York. The agreement includes requirements that all parties report regularly on their emissions and implementation efforts and undergo international review. At that global forum, the countries also reaffirmed the goal of limiting global temperature increase well below 2 degrees Celsius, while urging efforts to limit the increase to 1.5 degrees, during a host of others. President Granger said that as a small state, Guyana was particularly interested in the agreement and as such has thrown its support behind it.
And that is part of an international agreement which will deal with various aspects of climate change, sustainable development, global warming. Guyana is a low-lying coastal state. At least the coastline of Guyana is particularly vulnerable to rising sea levels. So we are interested in reducing, global warming to below the levels which have been agreed in Paris last year. So
currently, there is an existing agreement between the Government of Guyana and the Kingdom of Norway for the provision of finance to fund green projects in an effort to combat climate change. While several projects have already been implemented in this regard, the President believes that there is so much more that should and needs to be implemented so that persons, especially those residing along the coastline, are protected.
We like to look at recycling, and we like to look at coastal zone management. The previous plan did not include much about coastal zone management, and that is an area of vulnerability. As you know, sea defenses from time to time crack and salt water invades the agricultural areas. We'd also like to look at combating the impact of El Nino, because particularly in Rupununi, which is our largest region, occupies nearly a quarter of our land space. As you know, El Nino has had a very severe impact on the Rupununi in particular, and it's cyclical. You might miss it 2 or 3 years, but then it comes again. So we have to look at measures to provide reservoirs for water so that animals, human beings, human households first, and animals and crops would be provided with water throughout the year. And so these are some of the areas that we are examining.
While the government has begun its push for a global fight against climate change, efforts have also been undertaken in the local regions and municipalities across the country to reduce the effects. The Green Bartica project is one such initiative. A brainchild of President Granger, the project aims to ensure that the town in the heart of the Cuyuni-Mazaruni region becomes the first municipality which can boast of sustainable and positive growth and development. It was Bob Anderson who said, "There is nothing so rewarding as to make people realize that they are worthwhile in this world." Perhaps this was the impetus behind President David Granger's awarding 120 servicemen with medals on Thursday at the Durban Park during a medals presentation parade. This is the first time in the history of Guyana that there has been a joint services medal presentation parade. The last medals parade for the Ghana Defense Force was held in 2012, while the Ghana Police Force had their last medal parade in 2008. The heavy rainfall did not stop President Granger as he moved through rain, presenting 60 members of the GDF with the Military Efficiency Medal and the Border Defense Medal, while 60 members of the GPF were presented with the Long Service and Good Conduct Medal and the Border Defense Medal. The Military Efficiency Medal is awarded to serving members of the GDF who would have completed 10 years of continuous service with good conduct and are approved by the Chief of Staff following recommendations by the Medal Awards Committee. The Border Defense Medal is awarded to serving members of the Army and the Police Force who would have had cumulative service on a border location in excess of 1 year and are approved by the Chief of Staff and Commissioner of Police following recommendations by the Medal Awards Committee. The Long Service and Good Conduct Medal is awarded to serving members of the disciplined forces who've accumulated 15 years of continuous service with good conduct and are approved by the Commissioner of Police, also following recommendations by the Medal Awards Committee. After the awards presentation, spectators who included the Prime Minister, Mr. Moses Nagamutu, accompanied by his wife, Mistress Sister Nagamutu, First Lady, Mr. Sandra Granger, Minister of State, Mr. Joseph Harmon, Minister of Public Security, Mr. Kemaraj Ramjatan, Minister of Social Cohesion, Ms. Amna Ali, Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Noel Holder, and Minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Ms. Annette Ferguson, as well as numerous representatives of the diplomatic corps, were treated to a display of the military beating retreat. Now we will take a look inside the President's diary. While in New York to sign the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Paris Agreement, President Granger met with the Commonwealth Secretary General Baroness Patricia Scotland. The meeting took place at the United Nations headquarters, where both the President and the Commonwealth Secretary General were attending the signing ceremony of the historic Paris Agreement. President Granger took the opportunity to once again congratulate the Baroness on her appointment as the new Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations and wished her a successful tenure. On Thursday, the President met with the Commissioners of the Protected Areas Commission, PAC, who updated him on their work plan as it relates to protecting Guyana's natural patrimony. The team was led by Dr. David Singh and included Mr. Clayton Hall, Mr. Gerard Ramsrup, Mrs. Varshini Singh, Mr. Damien Finance, Mr. Anil Roberts, and Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Mr. Vilbert Welch. The PAC is currently working on a project to develop the Zoological Park, the Botanical Gardens, and the Joe Vera Park at Schoonard, West Bank, Demerara. Later that same day, His Excellency received a courtesy call from the founder and executive chairman of Guyana Goldfields Incorporated, Mr. Patrick Sheridan. During their discussions, Mr. Sheridan updated the head of state on the operations at the Aurora Gold Mine in the Cuyuni River, Region 7. The company just declared a commercial production of 40,000 tons for the first quarter of the year. On May 26, Guyana will join other Caribbean sisters such as Barbados in the Golden Jubilee Club. Guyana became an independent nation on Thursday, 26 May 1966, but the independence celebrations began 4 days earlier and continued until May 29. All of the public buildings and business places, according to Dr. Odin Ishmael, were brightly decorated with streamers and buntings bearing the colors of the Guyana flag. On the evening of May 25th, a grand cultural performance took place at the Queen Elizabeth Park, which was later renamed the National Park. Dignitaries in the audience of thousands included the Duke and Duchess of Kent representing Queen Elizabeth, and representatives of foreign governments. Then at midnight, the Union Jack, the symbol of British colonial rule for 163 years, was lowered and a new flag of Guyana, the Golden Arrowhead, was raised to the top of the mast. Just before the flag-raising ceremony before a huge crowd, Prime Minister Forbes Burnham and opposition leader Dr. Cheddi Jagan publicly embraced each other, indicating their satisfaction that Guyana had finally won its political independence. As Guyana's Golden Jubilee celebration steadily approaches, President David Granger believes that the event should not be one which is taken for granted, since many persons have fought and died in the process of acquiring this status.
And independence really made us feel equal, gave us that opportunity to be proud of our country and to be proud of who we were. So it is a precious gift. And what I would tell the present generation is don't take it for granted. Protect it. Eternally, we have to be vigilant to protect that independence. Even from a defense or a military point of view, we have to protect our independence and our territorial integrity. Everything that we have, everything that is valuable, has to be protected.
The President said that Guyana's Golden Jubilee celebrations presents the Guyanese society with the ideal opportunity to rise above the issues that promote division and recommit to the task of nation building.
Within Guyana, we still have to eliminate, the remaining traces of ethnic particularism and insularity, and work harder towards building national unity.
The President at the beginning of the year had designated 2016 as the year of hope and healing, as he had noted that national unity and nation building must also be hallmarks of the celebrations and observance of the Golden Jubilee. This, he says, remains his number one wish for the country and the people.
I believe now Guyana is more united than it was, 1, 5, or 10 years ago. And I would like to go down in history as helping to destroy that devil of national disunity.
That has brought us to the end of this week's edition of This Week with the President. Thank you for joining me. For regular updates on the Ministry of the Presidency, go to our website at www.motp.gov.gy, like our Facebook page, Ministry of the Presidency, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MOTP Guyana. Do have a blessed week, Guyana. Thank you.